I was walking around the other day and it reminded me of being a character in a Dostoevsky book. I find that when it comes to the UK, especially during the autumn season, the airy atmosphere, the depressive, alienating vibe, seeing the middle-aged people is starting to resemble something from my favorite novels, Crime and Punishment, White Nights, Notes from the Underground by Dostoevsky. How can a 19th century Russian novelist describe the UK of today better than our own politicians? Dostoevsky himself was a man who experienced poverty, illness, and family trauma, which influenced his writing, and he's known for exploring psychology, morality, and society. Suffering is common in the UK. We don't talk about the darkness in the atmosphere of British life. Dostoevsky was part of the Prechashevsky Circle, a group of intellectuals who discussed banned books, social reform, and criticized the Tsarist government. The group was considered revolutionary by authorities. Dostoevsky and 20 others were arrested and sentenced to death for treason, but Dostoevsky's sentence was changed to 4 years of Siberian exile. This experience deeply shaped his understanding of fear, morality, and human suffering. I personally relate a lot to this suffering and pessimistic vibe influenced in my own content. I lost my little sister Olive last year. Well, I call her my sister, but she was a best friend, and it really changed how my mind worked a lot. It taught me about the shortness of life. I became a lot more melancholic, more depressive, and these video essays are pieces of art in a way. Suffering can either make or break you as a person. I find the UK's gloomy atmosphere, it reminds me of Dark Souls, how you're running around in this dark, lonely, alienating place, and there's dungeons, you're forced to fight these huge monsters, you're forced in this loop. UK life feels like a loop. It's like a hardcore game where you're just constantly fighting for your life. However, you should never give up. You should never go hollow.
I am well pleased to see you safe. May the flames guide your way.
Be safe, friend. Don't you dare go hollow.
When your character dies in the game, you lose your human form and become hollow. Hollowing is represented visually. Your character starts to look more decayed, pale, and corpse-like. Mechanically, being hollow affects your ability to summon help from other players, and it can impact certain situations in a game. There's a cycle of despair in the UK. Just like dying in Dark Souls, life can sometimes feel like a cycle of effort and setback. You struggle, you fail, you feel emptier, and it's easy to lose hope. Hollowing captures that feeling of fading away, of life becoming mechanical, joyless, disconnected. You can fight back against going hollow in a game by using a humanity item or returning to human form, which restores vitality and connection. Psychologically, this is like finding sources of hope, support, or self-care in depression. Moments where you connect with others or your purpose. Hollowing shows that repeated suffering without reflection or connection can erode the soul. It's not just about physical death, it's about losing your emotional and moral center. The game subtly teaches, even when hollowed, small acts, kindling, helping others, facing challenges can restore meaning. This is a common theme in Dostoevsky's books. Going hollow in Dark Souls mirrors the psychological or moral decay Dostoevsky explores in Crime and Punishment. Just as Raskolnikov isolates himself and is consumed by guilt and paranoia after his crime, a player who repeatedly dies loses their human form, becoming hollow, pale, and disconnected from others. Both portray the toll of alienation and repeated failure on the soul, showing how isolation, moral conflict, and the weight of consequences erode your identity. Yet in both worlds, redemption is possible, and I'll later talk about this. There'll be some spoilers about the novel's ending in this segment of the video, so skip ahead if you don't want to hear that part. Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, created in 1866, follows Raskolnikov, a poor ex-student in St. Petersburg, who convinces himself he's above morality. He murders a greedy pawnbroker, justifying it as a way to free himself from poverty and even help society. But instead of freedom, the crime destroys him. He's consumed by guilt, paranoia, inner torment, more punishing than the law itself. Through encounters with others like Sonia, who represents compassion and faith, he eventually confesses and accepts his suffering, beginning a path towards redemption. At its core, the novel isn't just about crime or punishment. It's about the psychology of guilt, alienation, and the search for meaning in a broken society. Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment explores how poverty, alienation, and social pressure can push someone towards crime, and how guilt and moral consequences weigh on the soul longer after the act. In the UK right now, similar patterns emerge. Young people are in underfunded schools, struggling estates, and economically marginalized communities. Often they feel trapped, alienated, and forced to justify risky or criminal behavior as acts of survival. The justice system punishes actions but rarely addresses the psychological or societal roots, echoing Dostoevsky's themes of internal torment versus external punishment. Just like Raskolnikov, many in the UK experience cycles of crime, guilt, and societal judgment, highlighting that the pressures of inequality, desperation, and moral conflict remain just as urgent today as they were in 19th century Russia. The middle class, the supposed buffer of stability, is slowly disappearing. Rents rise, wages stagnate, debts are climbing now, and the promise of security is crumbling. Middle class kids are feeling that same alienation Raskolnikov felt, trapped by systems they didn't create, forced into competition, forced to hustle, forced to grind just to survive. Crime, desperation, guilt, it's a cycle that doesn't discriminate. The UK's justice system still focuses on punishment, not understanding why people do what they do. Dostoevsky would see that punishment without focusing on why people are so alienated and suffering, it just creates this cycle of despair. There's a moral weight of surviving in a system that's stacked against you. The constant tension between ambition, survival, and conscience, it's all still there, but we must fight. Crime and Punishment isn't just a Russian story from the 1860s, it's a mirror to the UK today, showing a society where the poor are trapped, the middle class is dying, everyone's just trying to avoid going hollow. And this is where the UK streets come in, the UK roads, the estates, the trap. These aren't just physical places, they're pressure cookers for alienation, fear, and survival instincts. The exact pressures Dostoevsky wrote about. On the roads, you see the same logic Raskolnikov used. Survival justifies actions, ambition pushes moral boundaries, and fear drives every decision. And when you fail, you get caught, robbed, betrayed, or you just can't make ends meet. It eats away at you, slowly hollowing you out. Just like in Dark Souls, every setback chips away at your human form. It's a constant loop, like I said, of just starting back at square one and starting up the boss fight again, running into the same place. Even if you're working a normal civilian job, paying rent, it's a kind of brutal cyclical loop of making ends meet and living paycheck to paycheck. Even if you live on your own, whatever, you start to feel disconnected, paranoid, bitter. You lose trust, you lose hope, and you feel the system is stacked against you no matter what. And it's not just kids on the estates, middle class people feel it too. The ones squeezed by debt, by rising costs, by society telling them that they need to climb some ladder, which is rotten itself. Hollowing isn't literal here, but mentally, spiritually, people are going hollow every day. And this is exactly what Dostoevsky warned about. A society that punishes without understanding, that creates despair, and expects morality to survive in a vacuum. Crime, punishment, guilt, alienation, it's all alive on the UK roads today. And everyone watches knowing someone living in that cycle. I get messages every day from people telling me about their life, how they've got court dates coming up, they're in and out of jail, it's getting peak. The amount of early 20s sensitive young men who have this kind of defeated look in their eyes. Guys are 21 years old already giving up. Already look like they've got 3 decades of misery. I find the people have lost their spark for life, the Faustian West that has basically died down. What's replaced it is this low energy, last man, untermensch society where the men are castrated and there's no striving towards some new higher ideals. There's no cathedrals being built. The people aren't aiming high. Britain's lost its ambition. Nietzsche in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, when talking about the last man, behold, I show you the last man. What is love? What is creation? What is longing? What is a star? Thus asked the last man, and he blinks. The earth has become small, and on it hops the last man, who makes everything small. His race is unimaginative, sluggish, and safe. He seeks comfort, avoids risk, and fears suffering. He has no great desire, no great hope, no great passion. He is the end of humanity. We're living in a society filled with dickheads. There's no real men left, only hollow shells of people who resemble men. I find this phenomenon where on the roads you see people forced into the opposite, constant struggle, constant risk, always hustling to survive. But outside the estates, in the middle class neighborhoods, you see another danger, the last man. They live this safe, comfortable life, obsessed with routine, glued to the screens, afraid of any real challenge, afraid of pain. You have these performative males these days, guys who walk around with little boo-boos on their clothes. They drink matcha. This pathetic last man mating call, which is like, look at me, please choose me as a mate. It's kind of like begging to get laid in a weird way. You know what I mean? It's appeasing to the gynocratic society that we live in. You're basically being a beg. I find this is the case with a lot of guys who manipulate themselves into getting pussy as well. They're nice guys. It's just the encapsulation of the mouse utopia we live in. Like I said in a video essay about decolonizing your mind, we live in a performative culture. Everyone wants to entertain surrogate activities instead of actually moving to a girl, just making things direct and sexual. You kind of do this weird thing where you talk, you make small talk with her, and you spend 2 years in a friend zone chatting like a bitch, just wasting time, begging for a chance. It's not aggressive, you get me? Like, your aggressions die down, and instead what's replaced it is this little weak batty man. Both sides are trapped, one by circumstance, the other by complacency. Halloween in Dark Souls reflects this too, the internal decay of someone repeatedly burned down, or someone numbed by safety without purpose. Dostoevsky's Raskolnikov is the perfect bridge. He commits crime out of desperation, but suffers the torment of conscience, showing that both external pressure and moral emptiness eat at the soul. Nietzsche, Dostoevsky, the UK streets all tell the same story. If you don't face struggle, morality, or meaning, you go hollow inside. Whether through guilt, fear, stagnation, and that hollowness is the death of the spirit, the true punishment society can't legislate away. Raskolnikov's crime in Crime and Punishment isn't just about breaking the law, it's about the weight of conscience. Every thought, every hesitation, every internal debate torments him far more than a pawnbroker's death ever could. In the modern UK, whether it's someone on the roads hustling to survive or middle-class youth cutting corners to stay afloat, the same tension exists. People act under pressure and then carry the moral cost internally. Guilt and self-judgment gnaw at the soul, shaping behavior, decisions, and even mental health. Dostoevsky shows us that society's rules matter, but internal reckoning is the real punishment, a lesson still painfully relevant today. I remember that guy who was talking about gangsters, A1 from the 9.
I mean, you know what the worst part is? When people get done for murder. These boys ain't murderers, bro. They're idiots. Idiot's the right word for them. There should be a conviction that says idiocy. Because they're not murderers, bro. They're idiots. These people will stab a guy and pray for him right after. And say, God, please don't let him die. But then he does. And now you're doing a life sentence. No, really. And that's what's really going on in London. It's not, oh, I want to kill that guy, so I'm going to take a knife and stab him. Everyone's scared.
Yeah, these guys are not murderers, they're idiots. And they do feel guilty for what they do. The guilt usually looks like avoidance, constantly being high, constantly drinking alcohol to deal with the pain. There's spiritual and moral decay in our society as well. Dostoevsky warned that when society loses faith, meaning, or moral grounding, chaos creeps in. In the UK, this decay shows in consumerism, clout obsession, social media, and nihilism. People chase temporary highs to fill spiritual voids. Streets and estates aren't just physical spaces, they're landscapes of desperation and moral erosion. Even middle-class neighborhoods aren't immune. I find that comfort and routine can numb your conscience. Ambition and empathy, it creates a slow, invisible rot. Without internal and societal moral guidance, hollowing occurs and communities lose their soul. It's true that God is dead. I remember seeing a comment someone said, in another life, I would have had a family, but now I get to scroll on my phone, I guess. Which is brutal to think about, but many man's lives are like this now. And you just gotta fight it, man. You gotta keep fighting until the death. Even in despair, Dostoevsky offers a path forward. Raskolnikov's redemption comes through confession, humility, and human connection. He accepts suffering and embraces moral responsibility. In the UK streets, redemption isn't always literal, but the principle holds. People can reclaim themselves through reflection, accountability, and connection. Whether it's rebuilding trust, helping others, or finding purpose beyond survival, Halloween may be inevitable under pressure, but small acts, showing kindness, seeking guidance, or confronting fear can restore humanity and spark change. Hope exists even in the harshest systems. I'm not talking about shallow little how to win friends and influence people. Do you know 48 Laws of Power, that dickhead book that no one likes? Where you go buy everyone in the office donuts so you can win them over and manipulate everyone, get a promotion. No, it's deep acts of kindness that we need to do. Of course, the people who deserve it. I don't believe in doing shit for people who aren't grateful. At the end of the day, fighting back against colonization of your mind isn't necessarily about protesting. That's another whole video I can make. It's about the little actions we can take in our own lives. Putting the phone down is an act of rebellion. Refusing to eat soy trash created in a lab, seed oils, is an act of rebellion. Following God over your own desires is rebellion. Make sure to find light in the darkness.